I was really happy to hear the discussion in the previous session about making friends, right? Talking with one another, because in a lot of cases, the way to do this, if you're going to do it in-house at all, the way to do it cost effectively is to do it with friends. Go in together and buy the equipment that all of you need. And maybe it doesn't handle everything you have, but at this point in media history, saving anything you can is a gain. Yes, collaboration is where it's at. So let's get started with just some questions about what you might have. Who's got moving image film? Anybody know they have this stuff? Any size, any variety?
We have
8mm, Super 8.
Yep.
Yeah, I see some raised hands. Go ahead, Rosemary. Was that you?
Yes. We have tons and tons of old Girl Scout films. You know.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
so, yeah, go ahead.
Is it best to put them on a CD? That's going away. Do you put it on a flash drive? How do you store media?
So have you digitized them already? Do I understand that right?
No, we have not.
Okay. All right. This is going to sound like a really weird question, but I promise there's a point to it. Have you smelled them lately? Have you smelled your films?
Yes, they're fine.
Okay, no vinegar. Those of you who have film, do smell it. What you are smelling for is anything that smells like vinegar. There was a film medium in, I want to say the mid 20th century, let's put it that way, called acetate. And when it degrades, it gives off that acetic acid vinegar smell, and that's trouble. All right. If it's an acetate film that you want to keep, you need to get it dealt with. If you're not smelling vinegar and you've got them stored nicely in film cans in a cool, dry place, they're probably okay. It's polyester film. Polyester's fine. There's not a huge, I mean, there's some risk, but there's not a huge degeneration risk with polyester film, which I hope is a relief. So many of these media are actually in serious trouble that it's nice to hear about one that maybe isn't. So if you have polyester film, the big, or any kind of film really, this is one where the only way you can do it in-house is honestly kind of crappy. What you can do is throw it on a film projector, project it up against the wall, and throw a video camera at it. And that's not ideal. It works, but it's and if you have acetate film and that's the only way you're going to save it, do it. All right. If you cannot afford to outsource your acetate and it smells like vinegar, it is dying. Save it however you can. The polyester stuff, however, that can wait. It can really, really wait. That's good news. Polyester film can wait. All right. Was there a raised hand? Jill? Jill Porter, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just saying that we, raising my hand, and yes, we have media.
Yeah, no worries.
Film.
Awesome. How about these bad boys? Open reel tapes. Anybody got oral histories on these? They were really popular, I'm going to say 1960s, 1970s. Yeah. Worry about these if you have them. And it's not necessarily you. The thing about these tapes is that a number of the manufacturers, kind of notoriously Ampex, but a number of manufacturers put out entire model lines of this tape that were just garbage. They were awful, and they degrade really easily no matter how you store them, and the damage is not necessarily visible. So if you have these, please get something done about them. What can you do? Can you do these in-house? If you can find a reel-to-reel player in decent condition, ask your community about this, right? This is one where you want to put the word out. Chances are not bad, right, that one of the folks on your board that you've been talking about has one in their basement, all right? And at that point, it becomes relatively, as these things go, simple. For almost any audio medium, like anything where you can hook it up with RCA or like 1/4-inch plugs, there's a magic piece of technology. This is a really old one. You don't want this model. I mean, you can make it work if you have to, but you don't want this model. You want something a little newer. But the magic is called an audio interface. And this is one of them. What it has, I'm gonna show you this side here, are, you know, various ports where you plug in your audio equipment, and it just plugs right in as it would to an amplifier or your stereo system. And then okay, here we go. Over here on the right, it's a USB port, which plugs right into your computer. And this actually does the taking the analog sound and turning it digital for you. Software, I use Audacity. It's free and open source. I will say, if you're setting Audacity up for volunteers, Audacity puts up a ton of little ribbons and widgets and stuff at the top, most of which you don't need. So turn those off because they're really frustrating. But other than that, an audio interface and Audacity and some instructions, and you're good to go. You really can save your own audio stuff. One more thing to know about these bad boys. If you put one on a player and you start it playing and you hear a squeal, it can be honestly almost as loud as a scream, but any squeal at all, stop the tape. Stop the tape right away. What you're hearing is something that is known as sticky shed syndrome. What happens is that moisture gets into the tape and kind of gets between the iron bits and the backing. And if you keep playing the tape, you mess up the tape and you potentially mess up your playback deck. So seriously, stop it right away. Can you do anything about sticky shed syndrome? Yes, you can. The trick with sticky shed syndrome is that you bake the tape. About 130 Fahrenheit, 4 to even upwards of 12 hours, as long as you need before there's no more squeal. Brands, models of audio interface, they're all okay. Definitely look for one that's USB. Some of them are the older, much older technology known as Firewire or i1394, and you don't want to deal with that if you don't have to. I've had perfectly good luck with Tascam. Roland is another good brand. I mean, they're super higher end ones, but yeah, frankly, I don't hear the difference. And eBay, Craigslist, Shop Goodwill, they turn up there pretty often. Shouldn't be hard to get your hands on one at a reasonably affordable price. Right, tape baking. 130 degrees up to 12 hours. There are ovens, tape ovens that are designed for this sort of thing. They are upwards of $5,000. Don't know about y'all, but I do not have that kind of money. So I got a tip. I got a tip from an actual AV archivist back in the day. What you do is get a food dehydrator. Like, again, ask your board. Somebody probably has one. But seriously, they work. A food dehydrator, you slap it on there, set it to 130, leave it going, it works. Like the ones you make jerky in. Yep. Make your own fruit roll-ups. That is the machine that you want. So yes, how to deal with stuff on the cheap. Boy, have I learned a lot about that in the last few years. All right. Once you have your audio interface, there are lots actually of audio formats that you can deal with as long as you have a player. Your ordinary cassette tape, get a player, hook it up to your audio interface, start up Audacity, you're good. I like these things. They rarely cause trouble. Honestly, these sometimes do. You want to actually be watching these while you are playing them back. Cassettes, I don't worry about. I just set them up, get them going, and walk away. Oh, good to know. Chippewa Valley Museum is digitizing. Is there a guide out there for making sticky tape jerky? Thank you for that. Not that I know of, but wow, that'd be a great thing to write. That's hilarious. I would love it. Right, where was I? Audio cassettes. Let me see if I have. Shoot. Answering machine tapes. Micro cassette tapes, the little ones. You can find players for those. A decent Sony. You'll need a slightly different jack, but you totally can get adapters so that plugs into your audio interface. You're all good there. Some folks worry about vinyl records. I don't as much. They're like film in that if you're storing them well and not playing them too often, they're probably fine. Vinyl will be okay. Anything that's magnetic media, that's the stuff that you have to worry about. So that's your open reel tapes, that's your cassettes and your micro cassettes, and stuff like that. But audio is, again, fairly easy. You really can do it in-house. The one thing to know as you're planning for this and engaging volunteers and all of that kind of thing, all of this stuff digitizes in real time. If your cassette tape is an hour long, it's going to be playing back into the computer for an hour. And that's particularly when you have a small set of equipment, that's a hard thing to work around. It's just a lot of time. One suggestion that I have is that, again, if you band together, you can maybe have more than one rig. Audio interfaces are not that expensive. If you have a couple spare computers, then you can be running 2 tapes at a time, and it's fine for one volunteer to be just keeping a weather eye on both of them. And yes, this is another super good use for the community of practice. Cassettes with poor sound quality, didn't use a good mic, background noise in room when it was recorded. My usual advice for this is do the best you can with what you have. If you use, there aren't any bits you can twiddle, there are no knobs you can mess with on the audio interface that are going to make much of a difference. If you have in your community somebody who is good at audio editing, right? Ask around at the local radio stations, see if there's a ham radio community, folks who really understand audio. in your area. They might be willing to lend you a hand. Once you have the digital file, there are various things you can do in Audacity to try to clean it up a little bit. But always do that to a copy of your file. Always keep the original capture safe until you're positive that you have a cleanup that you are happy with. But yeah, do it digitally. There's nothing you can do about the tape itself. There's not much you can do on the audio interface. So get the best capture you can, and fiddle with a copy of it, I should say, in Audacity. That was a really great question. And yes, it happens. And don't feel guilty. It's nothing you did, right? Sometimes there's only so much quality. And while we're talking about fragility, as I said, magnetic media, they're decaying. These were never really built, designed to last. Open reel tapes supposedly were, it just hasn't worked out that way. But yeah, the cheap stuff was not designed to be any kind of archival medium. All right, any more questions about audio? Cool. Who's got some of these bad boys? VHS. I see a hand up. Too many. Yeah, don't we all? So the chemical engineers say that we've got about 15 to 20 years left on these before the deterioration gets so bad that you can consider a lot of this information to be a total loss. So if you have these, they should be close, yeah, 15 to 20 years from now in 2021. They should be close to the top of your list, especially if there's something really good on them, because these are not long for this world. Nice thing is that there are a lot of services that will take these and do a reasonably good job with them. So if you cannot pull together the volunteer hours, and again, it will be hours and hours and hours to get this done, go in with your colleagues, with your collaborators on a grant application. And again, sell digitization. This is your community history that is on these irreplaceable, unique, at-risk materials. You can really write a compelling story about these things for local grant agencies. High school also had equipment to convert them. Interesting, good to know. Yes, your community is your greatest resource. Yeah, so, sorry, fumbling around on my desk for equipment. If you want to do VHS in-house, you need a VCR. Those are not hard to come by still. I have like 7 or 8 piled up in my, because people keep giving them to me. They, especially ones built after, I'm going to say, about 1995, they're not super high quality builds. So they do break, which is why I keep several of them around, and a lot of them are just not even worth fixing. So just, run it into the ground and get another one. It's fine. How do you play it back into the computer? You have 2 options, really. The cheap, relatively easy, not necessarily archivally correct way, and the somewhat more expensive, somewhat more annoying, I'm just going to say that, much bigger files, but your archivist will love you way. Cheap way first. These little dongle thingers, USB, again, sorry, I have mine taped to the RCA cord, which is not not ideal for this purpose. The ones I use are from Roxio, no particular reason except the software on them is pretty good. These are like under 50 bucks at the local or non-local online stuff emporium of your choice. I hate Amazon. I try not to buy from Amazon, but you can get them on Amazon. I like the Roxio. I like the Elgato. Those are okay. Be a little bit careful with the no-name knockoffs. It's not that the equipment's bad, it's that the software that comes with it is just awful. But otherwise, get one, hook it up to your VCR, go to town. The more, I'm gonna pull the USB cord out of this thing, okay. The within your grasp, what was the name of that device? Roxio, and it'll just say, you know, VHS digitizer, VHS tape converter, something like that. If you have the brand name, you'll find it. The somewhat more archivally correct, but distinctly more annoying way to do this is with a gadget from Blackmagic Design called an intensity shuttle. I will type that into the chat. Blackmagic Design, all one word. Oh shoot, I just direct messaged Vicky. Sorry about that. Let me type that for everybody. Here we go. Blackmagic Design, intensity shuttle. Yeah, you gotta love the way these things are named. Blackmagic is no longer making these, right? They've discontinued them. They are readily available on eBay. One or two a day, I find, get put online. Don't pay more than 200 bucks. Some of them will try to charge more than 200 bucks, but wait a few weeks, and these will come up at, you know, 150, 175, which is reasonable. They come with their own software, forget what it's even called, which is finicky, a little annoying, but you can live with it. And what you will get is that you won't get from the Roxio, the little dongles, is that, so let me step back a second. The dongles, like my Roxio here, will capture what's known, and you're probably familiar with this format already, as an MP4, right? With the H.264 codec. And that is what you want. And I'm going to type that into chat because it is important. The other thing that they will do is DVDs, also known as MPEG-2. You don't want that. Do not digitize to DVD. Do not. You are throwing quality away unnecessarily. DVDs were a hack, a kludge. They're terrible. There isn't actually a whole lot of storage room on a DVD. It's like 4.7 gigs, something like that, which is not very much. And so there are all kinds of tricks that that go in to putting a full-length movie on a DVD, and they all involve lowering the video quality. So don't digitize the DVD, digitize to MP4 H.264. That's the least that you should accept. Don't have much experience using eBay. Can you put an alert in for? Yes, you can, and that's how I do it. If I'm looking for something, I put in a search. You can save a search on eBay and have it email you when something new comes up. Shop Goodwill will do this also. If you want to keep your eye on something there, it's the same thing. You do a search, save it, and then they email you when something new matches the search. Don't go every day. That is just an awful waste of time. Life is too short to be haunting eBay for stuff. Right. So with the dongles, you get MP4 H.264, which is okay. It's still lossy, not the greatest, but honestly, with an old VHS, how much more quality are you going to get out of what's a very old tape? With the Blackmagic, you are getting a full quality, complete, as much information as possible capture off it. The downside to that is that the files are humongous. They're huge, ginormous. So before you get one of these things, you need to sort out where you're going to keep those huge files. And if you make the decision that life's too short for old VHS tapes to turn into ginormous files, I'm going to go the MP4 H.264 route, I'm fine with that. Right? You have my dispensation to not do this to full archival quality. It's fine. And particularly with stuff where there is really no other reasonable transformation route to saving this information. It's basically you could dub it, but then it's on another dying VHS tape. What's the good there? It's really digitization or nothing for these puppies. So get them done. For those of you who don't know, there is a shop in Madison called Holder Printworks. Holderprintworks.com. Joel Holder, who runs it, is a super awesome, chill guy. I love him to bits. And if he understands that you're coming from a memory institution, right, a cultural heritage institution, he knows what to do. Right? He knows his business. He will treat you right. I can definitely promise that. So, what if you have? How much time am I looking at, Kristen or Vicky?
So your session is done at 10:40, and it depends on how much time you want to leave for questions. So that's where we are.
Cool. Couple more things then, and then I will take some questions. Who's got home movies on these little babies, mini DVs? I see one nod. All right. These are obnoxious. I apologize for these. I wish these did not exist, but they do. The reason these are obnoxious is that I mentioned Firewire earlier. Firewire is basically how you get a capture from a mini DV camera. And Firewire is completely, utterly, 100% obsolete, right? Nothing made today does Firewire. So what can you do? If you have a desktop computer, like literally one that you can open up and install a card in, you can deal with Firewire by buying a Firewire card. Used or new, you can actually get those new. StarTech sells them. StarTech sells lots of fascinating things. And it's the predictable URL, startech.com. So that's one option, buy a Firewire card. Second option, ask your community if anybody has a laptop or desktop machine that's old enough to have a Firewire port. As long as it has a Firewire port and it's still running, you can use it for captures. There's a little tiny utility that you can still find on the internet, assuming we're talking Windows, called WinDV. It's free. It installs in like 2 seconds, and it works. It's all you need. So if you find that ancient machine that still has a Firewire port, put WinDV on it, and you're good. Camera, Firewire cord, ancient machine with WinDV. That's all you need. What vintage, of desktops and laptops would have Firewire? Let me think about this. I mean, anything earlier than 2010. I mean, that's going to be your best bet. But business class laptops had it all the way up to about 2015. So you can actually find a machine with an Intel like i5, maybe even i7 if you really look, CPU that actually does have a Firewire port. It's still going to be slow. That's going to be a slow machine, but it'll be fine for this particular purpose. So yeah, that's mini DVs for you. For playback, any camera, any mini DV camera is going to have that Firewire port, and that's all you need. Sony, Canon did a lot of them. Those are the two big names. Who else even made these things? Fuji, I think, made a few, but Sony or Canon, you'll be fine. What else? There's one more weird one that some of you might have in your collections. And it looks just or very much like a cassette tape, but it's not. It's actually video, and it's either high 8 or digital 8. And I never thought I was seriously going to see these things, but I've had quite a few more come in than I expected. For these, talk to your community again. It is, I don't think you're not going to have many, probably not. So if you have some outsourcing money, this might be someplace that you actually spend it. It's not worth the hassle, honestly, of dealing with high 8 or digital 8. And the other thing about high 8 and digital 8 is that digital 8 cameras will play high 8. High 8 cameras or decks, there are decks, will not play digital 8. And you can't know just from looking at a tape whether it's high 8 analog or digital 8. So that's really annoying. Outsource these puppies if you find them. Yes, MPEG-4 is the same as MP4. If you have a movie box, I'm jealous, actually. I want one of those things. Haven't been able to get my hands on one. Interesting little gadget. It's one of the few, it's USB, right, Lori? Your movie box, it connects with USB. Yeah, it's one of the few that supposedly will take mini DV and transfer it to a computer with USB instead of Firewire. So nice machine, hang on to that. Good find. All right, questions? Any stuff that you know you have that I didn't mention and you're not sure what to do with or how much trouble it is? File storage is a constant question. Other options for storing large video files. Okay, if you're comfortable making the movie, the material public, don't count out the Internet Archive, right? The Internet Archive will take almost any video as long as they're allowed to show it to people. That's all they ask. Beta tapes, good one. Beta Max or Beta Cam? I hate that I even have to ask this. But there are a number of different beta formats. Probably Beta Max. You can try a dongle. It will probably not work. I have tried this with a number of different dongles, had no luck. You can hook up a Betamax deck to one of these and it will work. These will be fine with your beta tapes. Again, I know this from experience, having captured them. So otherwise, outsource it. It's not worth the hassle. Can I do beta tapes in my shop? Yeah, I can. Haven't had to in a while. They haven't come up, but Should you worry about them? Yes, they're magnetic media. They're the same kind of vintage as VHS tapes. Definitely worth worrying about. Is there a printed guide that we can consult as we discover these various formats in our collections? Yes, the Museum of Obsolete Media. Oh, the greatest, the Museum of Obsolete Media. Other resources that are frequently helpful, the Bay Area Video Coalition, the AVC, tend to be kind of high end, right? That's their niche, that's what they do, but super, super useful information coming out of Bay Area Video Coalition. So check them out. Who else? Various other people. The other thing that I will say about this on the topic of community, I have gotten so much help from people who are better at this than I am, right? I taught myself to do this, and there's a lot, frankly, that I still don't know, that I'm trying to learn. But if you can find like the AMIA community, Association of Moving Image Archivists, those folks, many of them are super, super helpful and happy to help you figure out what equipment you need to rescue your stuff. I'm here, I'm part of the community. I'm also swamped, right? Not gonna lie, y'all. A lot of changes in the iSchool the last 3 years, and what it's meant for me personally is that I'm inventing courses faster than I can think of them. Hi, Dorothea, do you want to teach Computer Science 202 this summer? I was just like, no, but there's nobody else to do it, so I guess here I am. That's what my life has been like the last 3 years. So I have not been able to give the time to this work that I wish I could. That said, my email is salo@wisc.edu. And yes, you may not get an answer right away because that's how my life is going. But you will get an answer. And if I can help, I'm happy to. As for the weird thing that you have in your collection and you're totally not sure what it even is, take some cell phone pictures of it, email it to me. I will do my best to figure it out. Some of the weirdest stuff has come across my desk. Just really, really just like, wow, this is obscure. Put a ruler in the picture if you can, because sometimes knowing the measurements of the thing will help me figure out what it is. Otherwise, you know, that's an easy one for me to say it. Black discs. Okay, Stephen, tell me more about black discs. Oh, inches per second. Yeah. Records, vinyl. Yeah, don't worry about vinyl. You can hook pretty much any record player up to an audio interface if there's vinyl that you want to, you know, digitize for access. That one is super not hard. Inches per second. That's these boys again, the open reel tapes. They come in various speeds, from playing back at 15/16ths of an inch per second, all the way up to like 30 inches per second. The handy thing to know about those is that they are all doubles of one another. So if you have a tape that's so slow or so fast that the player you have will not play it at its designated speed, you can speed it up or slow it down with Audacity. It's basically, you know, 200% speed or slow it down to half speed. Audacity will totally do that. So don't sweat it. Have I had to do this? Yes, I have. I did get in a 30-inch per second tape, and the fastest I had was 15. So I captured it at 15 and had Audacity mess with it. What advice do I have for folks who are prioritizing digitization of audio or video film formats? how to prioritize it when when an organization has multiple formats that might be at risk. Yeah, excellent question. As I said, worry about the magnetic media first. Film will wait. At that point, I think it becomes a collection development or, a collection analysis decision. And that's hard. It is so hard. I don't envy you having to make these decisions. There are some strategic considerations that you can maybe keep in mind. Is any of the material on a theme that you could write a grant around? Is any of it about a favorite child of the community where you can, gin up enough community interest to maybe get the funding to get this, or the volunteer time or effort to get this done? A lot of these considerations are, unfortunately, you don't have the elbow room to think about the technical questions. It's really, what can you spin a good yarn around to get the money, to get the investment, to get this work done. Does that make sense? Anybody have any better ideas? I don't love what I just said.
I might suggest that one consideration is, populations or demographics even that might have been historically underrepresented in your community might be a good criteria for prioritization.
Absolutely. How to advocate within the community. This is one place where crisis narratives, much as I don't ordinarily love them, are actually kind of warranted. You can legitimately tell people all of this latter 20th century history, right, of our community, it's dying. If we don't save it soon, it's gonna be too late. And that is a message that resonates with a lot of people. For those looking to shop out digitization, any vendors that you recommend, I'm going to suggest that Emily Fotenauer is a really good resource for this question. I know that Emily has done a lot of costing out, sending RFPs to vendors, and so definitely ask Emily. What's the name of that company? George, help me.
George Blood.
Those guys, yes,
Yeah.
Yes, they are terrific. The Northeast Document Conservation Center, they're pricey, but they are excellent. They also do very good work, but George Blood is actually frequently where I recommend people go first. Their prices are reasonable and they will treat you right. Great question. Lena, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd also recommend for folks to consider scaling down your projects. So if everything you have in your collection, I mean, I'm sitting here with a collection of 3,000 open reel tapes that will never be digitized. The reality is it's not going to happen. But I have some, I might have 50 that are the content we've deemed extremely important to digitize. And so we're going to try to focus to get the money for 50 tapes, to send those out, because 50 tapes, is not necessarily worth setting up a system to digitize with. And in my case, right? Some people, 50 tapes is definitely worth finding the equipment in your community. So consider scaling down your projects and working on them in smaller chunks. And I definitely agree with Kristen in the sense that content can really make a difference in terms of how you choose to prioritize material. So I would be aware of the content you have and what is most impactful to your community when you take steps to start digitizing things. The other thing I would do is, if you are concerned about not getting to be able to digitize something before it dies, document everything you can about it before that happens, right?
Mhm.
Do you have a volunteer who can transcribe an oral history because you don't think you can digitize the tape, right? Then at least you are saving a transcription of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you have, say, a media with a concert on it, can you at least figure out what the program was from that concert so you know what pieces were performed, right? Any information, any content you can gather from your materials that you don't think you'll be able to digitize in time, you should definitely try to get that content while those medias are still playable, at least.
And this can be a great use for the music and audio and history buffs in your community. Maybe they're not going to be available to digitize, but they might be available just to listen.
It's also a
right?
great
And
use
that
of,
is,
yeah, it's also
Go
a great
ahead,
use
Lena.
of volunteer capacity for volunteers who aren't so tech savvy or uncomfortable doing that kind of work. Most volunteers can listen to something, right? They know how to play the media that you're asking them to play. And to sit and watch a film or to sit and listen, to listen to a tape is important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great idea. And, that also raises the suggestion that one way to very quickly and somewhat harshly weed or, triage your collection is what actually has metadata, right? Which do you actually know what is even on this stuff? And maybe if you don't, that stuff might be lower priority. If somebody took the trouble to actually describe it, there's a pretty good shot it's a little more important to the community than a random tape that somebody's 6-year-old might have, taped 6 hours of PBS on. This has happened.
Great suggestions and wonderful information. That's all the time we have for you today, Dorothea. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. You're such a wealth of knowledge, and we're so thrilled that you could share it with us.
Yeah.
It's time that we're going to take another break. So feel free, if you want to stick around and hang out and ask questions or anything, you can. Otherwise, feel free to get up, stretch, get a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. We'll meet back here at 10:50.
I apologize that I do have to head out because I'm supposed to be teaching CS202 like right now. So I'm going to go rescue my TA.
Thank you so much,